Okay, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Just trying to see YouTube here. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Okay. So we'll just wait for people to come in. I'm trying to see why YouTube hasn't come on yet, but we might be having some technical issues. How's everybody? Hi, Rachel. Hi, Lola. How are you, ladies? How's everybody? What's going on in your world? Okay, so I don't know what's going on with YouTube. How is everybody? Today we're going to be talking about stepping into your light. Hi, Rachel. It's been a week. Mercury is in the microwave today. I don't know what's going on with Mercury. Mercury is always something. Is it nuking you? I think I saw something about how there's all these planets in retrograde, and it's crazy. It's just a crazy week. I agree. So, trying to see what's going on with my YouTube channel here. I'm gonna come back in. Okay. All right, YouTube. I don't know what's going on. Hey, Lola. How are you? Okay, we're on YouTube now. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, how's everybody tonight? We got Mercury and microwave. I think almost all the planets are in microwave mode. The world is in a microwave. But we're gonna, see what's going on and have our healing space here. I'm gonna quickly smudge. So if you're open to smudging and clearing your energy fields, just go ahead and feel into the smoke coming into your aura, cleansing and realigning everything. Hi, Kim. How are you? There we go. And wherever you are, just taking a nice deep breath in and out. Just clearing any and all negative energies, anything stagnant, anything you may have picked up this week, this month, this year. Yeah, feel it going through your whole house. Hi, Nicole. Welcome in. Nicole's our awesome moderator. How are you doing today? Rachel was saying Mercury is in microwave. I haven't heard that. That's cute. The problem with Mercury when it goes retrograde is the whole, everybody flips out. But I think that the way I see Mercury retrograde and all that kind of retrograde energy is that it's showing you where you need the clearing, where you need to work more, where the blockages and stagnant energies are, so that when it comes out of retrograde, you have all this energy, all this power, all this, awareness, so that you can go for it. It's like a boomerang. It and then it goes back out. So I always embrace the retrogrades. I don't buy into the, don't travel, don't do this, don't do that, because life still goes on. Retrogrades are 3 times a year, and they're like, what, a month or something, and then you got shadow periods and all this stuff. So it's like, embrace the retrogrades of your life. Embrace all aspects of life, because that's why we're here, right? and, smudge, clear your energy, do what you got to do, but stay on your path. And so today I wanted to talk about stepping into your light, because I feel like with all the earth changes and all the earth shifts, that it's more important than ever for people to step into their divine purpose, their mission, their energy, their light, and not to cower down to the negative energies, because that's what happens, is that negative energy becomes so much more powerful, because people who are positive, they get defeated. And right now we can't be defeated, and we have to keep going and keep empowering ourselves and getting into community and being aware of the things that are happening in and around us. But I feel like the real change in the world is going to happen on the community level, that then ripples out into the global community. And it is about returning to our essence and our nature and why we came here on this planet. What did we come here to do? Thanks, Nicole. So you said, let's see, I saw, oh, it was good. It was hot today. I know, it's weird about our summer. Anybody else here have a weird summer? Here in Colorado, we had the weirdest summer. It rained for most of June and July, and now it's 100 degrees. It's August, when it's time for fall and kids are going back to school. Now it decides to get to be 100 degrees. It's not making any sense. And we got half the country up in flames and the other is flooding. So we've got massive earth changes. This is all part of prophecy. I did want to read something I posted on my my Facebook and my Instagram stories, and this is from Red Crow, who was he was an activist from South Dakota, and he was talking about our prophecies. So most indigenous prophecies talk about this time of change and what's really going on. True, Arizona has really hot. I know Arizona has gotten hotter and hotter. Every year it's hotter and hotter. And now I think the monsoons are coming in finally, hopefully. That's always how it is in Sedona. It's like, oh, it gets so hot, 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 hot. And then all of a sudden the monsoon comes and we all just like, whew. It's been cooler here, Chicagoland as well. This week, higher 90s. I know it's like a weird thing happening. It was really cool, and then now it's getting hot. And I don't know, those of you who garden, like our garden this year wasn't that great. Last year it was much better, but this year, because of all the rain and stuff, it wasn't that great. Hi, Kinsey. Good evening, April. Hi, Mona. How are you? I haven't seen you in a while, Mona. How you been? So here's what Red Crow said. He said, "We were told we would see America come and go. In a sense, America dies from the inside out because they have forgotten the instructions to live on Mother Earth. This is the Hopi Creed. It is our creed that if you are not spiritually connected to the earth and you don't understand the spiritual reality on life of earth, or the spiritual reality of life on earth, chances are you are not going to make it." That's a pretty powerful statement if you think about it, because in the indigenous culture, if you look at any indigenous culture across the globe, everything is spiritual. Everything has a spiritual connection. Everything is related to how we were taught to live on this earth, to live on the earth in peace and harmony, and to work with the earth versus, how we're living right now. And because we have forgotten the original instructions that were carried down since time immemorial, we are now the repercussion of all those years. Think of all these years of colonization, of taking and taking and taking and taking from the earth and being entrapped in it. So think about our ancient ancestors. Everybody comes from somewhere indigenous. Your ancient ancestors did not live this way. They lived in community. Think about it. Like, I was thinking about that this week. our ancestors, because they lived in such a powerful community and they had this tribal, way of life, they didn't have all this weight that we have on around survival. Like in this time and age, look at how many of our brothers and sisters don't have a home right now because the price is just so incredibly crazy. And people who were doing okay 2, 3 years ago are now really suffering and hurting. And it's because we don't live in community. We don't live in a state of helping one another. We have lost that original instruction of how to live together in unity and harmony. And it's been thousands of years maybe since we've really seen that across Mother Earth. And now in this time of the great change, and what, in the Toltec calendar, it's called the new fire. And there's lots of prophecies all over Turtle Island and beyond around what this new fire is. And it's returning to the spiritual, which is community, which is returning to spirit, the way we are meant to live, the way that we are meant to share from the heart, right? And last week we talked about the aloha and how Hawaii now, the earth chakra, like the heart chakra of the earth, is opening. And I talked about this a few years ago about how these centers on the earth, the ley lines, we talk about the volcanoes, the ring of fire, they have been awakening. People talk about Yellowstone. Anywhere there's a volcano or a center, what we call a portal, a ley line, is opening. And with that opening is spiritual awakening. And that's why a lot of people right now, your gifts are turning on. You're starting to see things. You're starting to experience things. You're starting to see things in a different way. And it's really incredible because, I feel like over the next few years, we're going to see people who are like the biggest skeptics of spirituality start to have spiritual experiences. And this is the awakening. This is the prophecy. This is what we're talking about, is that everything has a spiritual component to it. And we're going to see that spirit world rise and rise and rise and rise. But unfortunately, it's usually through devastation and tragedy that we see that awakening really happen. Because you think about what would take you out of selfishness and back into community. What would take you out of greed? What would take you out of those lower emotions like jealousy, envy, stepping on others to get ahead, all the stuff that we've been living in this world. And then you have like empaths, people who are of the original, ways. That's what an empath really is. It's a sensitive person. And a sensitive person is living in the original because they can't live in that unnatural way. And that's why so many empaths in our world, they really struggle because it's unnatural. And then they're made to feel like they're the weirdos when in fact they're the ones keeping the original instructions. Hi, Sweet Pea. How are you tonight? I have had such a hard time believing this country will have that awakening because look at the tragedies. Yeah. But then you look at what's happening through the tragedies, because when you start to realize, nobody's coming to save you, you have to save each other to survive. And that's what we're seeing happening in places like Hawaii. It's that, community is stepping forward. We already had, and how they just ignore it and move on like nothing happened. Yeah. And then but the problem with that is that it's just going to keep happening, right? It's happening. It's like one thing after happening, and then people get overwhelmed, and it's overwhelming. So we can only do what we can do. And the power of community and prayer is so important, but also returning to the spiritual ways. That's the whole thing, is we have to return to the spiritual ways. And through the economy and all that's happening, is going to happen naturally. I hope it happens. People wake up. Yeah, people are woken up. I think the next stage of awakening is, what do you do? Because we're in information overload. information gets immediately sent out, and everybody, like I said in my one video about how everybody loves drama, so the drama and the this and the, remember the telephone game when you were a little kid and you said, one word, and then by the end of it, it ended up being this whole story, and it gets out of hand. It's kind of the telephone game that we're living in when we're looking at social media and all that stuff, right? So we have to take stuff with a grain of salt, but we also have to just connect within ourselves and say, oh, okay, what is it that is my part in this grand scheme, and how can I be the change? And I did a video recently talking about the change makers, and it's really only 20% of people who are change makers who are designed to change the system. That's all we need. But the problem with change makers is that change makers are really concentrated on the toxic stuff and trying to, talk to toxic people and trying to change people who will never change and just keep you in those repetitive cycles of suffering, when that's not where we need to be. We need to be in the room with other change makers, with other inventors, with other creators, with other people who are here with a voice and are utilizing their spiritual power to make the change. And some people are going to be called to doing, like more litigation stuff, law stuff, politics, even government. People will start entering into those fields to shift the energies, right? Those are warriors because you see what you're up against. But then there's teachers, there's oracles, there's professors, there's singers, there's actors, there's like every kind of creator and inventor of new technologies, and everybody has a unique gift. And that gift is really needed at this time. My candle kind of made a noise. It's the time that we have to return back to the spirit. So Red Crow goes on to say that everything is spiritual. Everything has one spirit. One spirit. We are here on earth only a few winters, then we go to the spirit world. The spirit world is more real than most of us realize. I think that's the most incredible part, is that the spirit world is more real. And what we were taught to believe the spirit world is just a tiny, microscopic blob, Peaky's here, blob of what the spirit world really is. Sorry, I gotta get the cat here. There's Peaky B. She has something to say too. She's purring right now. But the spirit world is more real than we could ever imagine. And that's what we have to connect to. And it's interesting because we're about to enter into one of the most spiritual times of the year, which is Hungry Ghost Festival is happening August 30th to September 14th. We'll start talking about that in our future lives. There's also going to be, Halloween, Samhain, Dia de los Muertos, that whole portal that opens. In the Toltec calendar and the Tonopoali, actually all of September is the original Dia de los Muertos. Like before colonization, it was the whole month of September that we did rituals and ceremonies and things for our ancestors. So September is actually a very spiritual month. It's a very big opening for the spirit world. And it's the time we do our rituals for the ancestors who died in tragedy, which is what we call hungry ghosts, but it's also the time we do rituals for our ancestors who ascended, who did big works on this planet, who are our guides, or what people call ascended masters. Full Pisces moon is August 30th. And that's something, and it's Pisces, so it's going to bring up all that emotion, and Pisces is the last sign, so it's all connected. You see how spirituality, it really all connects because it's universal truth. So it doesn't really matter which way you go, because there's going to be a commonality, a string, a thread in all the modalities. But yeah, it's going to be a powerful month coming up. And that's why I'm starting to talk about it now, because I talk a lot about rituals and offerings and that kind of stuff because it works. This is what our ancestors have been doing and still doing. People still do this. And I feel like here in the West, we really need to bring back those rituals and those ways, because they work. They've been working, they will work, they will continue to work. And one of the main things that we have to think about in these times of change is spiritual protection. That's spiritual protection and cleansing are two huge things we have to do in this time where everything is upside down. And so as everything's going upside down, if you know you're spiritually protected, you don't have to, have that extra layer of worry and stress and anxiety, because you know that you have protection. And that's one of the most powerful things that every person can do for themselves, is to learn spiritual protection. What works for you? And what are the rituals, ceremonies, and things that help you to provide that force field in and around you, so that you're protected, so that no matter where it goes, it doesn't go to your door. So he goes on to say, the spirit world is everything. Most of our body is water. To be healthy, you need to drink pure water. Water. Think of that. Pure water. Water is sacred. Air is sacred. Our DNA is made from the same DNA as the tree. The tree breathes what we breathe out. We need what the tree expires, so we have a common fate with the tree. We are all of the earth. And when the earth and its water and atmosphere are corrupted, then the earth will create her reaction. The mother reacts. In the Hopi prophecy, it says that storms and floods will get bigger. As I say that, my lights are flickering. I heard the phrase spiritual hygiene. Yes, spiritual hygiene. It sounds like self-care. And at the root of spiritual hygiene is spiritual cleansing. That's what we talk about with sage or other herbs, or spiritual baths, or going out into nature, hanging out with the trees, the water, the elements. It's spiritual cleansing, and then spiritual protection. Spiritual protection is not at my door. That's basically what you're saying. Uh-oh. That's happening now, isn't it? That prophecy. Yes, it's happening right now, sweet pea. That's why I'm talking about it. Is because what he said is that we have a common fate with the trees. And look at what's happening all over the world with trees. Look at what's going on in the Amazon. Look at what's going on in Oregon and Washington and all these places where they're doing the logging and the this and the that. I mean, look at what we're doing with the trees. Okay. And what we call them is tree people. They're like people to us. So it's very devastating. And we are all here on the earth. We all have a common fate. But think about what is happening with our water. Look at what's happening with our water. Look at what's happening to our air. Our air is toxic and polluted. Our water is getting toxic and polluted. And because of this, the mother is reacting. Our grandmother Earth, she's reacting. And this is why we're having these storms and floods and fires and all this stuff. I do the elements river walks. That's good. Storms will get worse. I've always been worried, and we don't have a basement here in the Midwest. The thing about that, Rachel, is we do have basements here in Colorado, and when the water, like this summer, we had a lot of rain, and a lot of people's basements flooded. So it's kind of like either way, right? And that's the spiritual protection, because when you have the spiritual protection, it's like no matter what, you're protected, no matter what. Because in this time, it's like nothing goes unscathed. Nobody will be unscathed. It may not come to you right now, but it will come. And this is why we have to prepare. This is why we have to prepare mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and be prepared on all the levels so that when it does come, we're not in panic mode. We're not in fear, because this is a natural process. It's a cleansing process of Mother Earth. It's been predicted or prophesied for thousands of years since the coming of colonization. A tornado took a house down the way from us right off the foundation 2 years ago. Yeah, don't be freaked out. You know, it's weird. Like, and you'll see that with the fires and the floods and the earthquakes and the hurricanes and everything. You'll see like all these houses destroyed and then the one that's sitting there. That's spiritual protection. Because something protected. I've seen that. Like here in Colorado, there's a big fire, the Marshall Fire. Some of you may know about it. And that fire happened, I seen like the whole area, every house was burned down, and this one guy was standing there outside his house, and the fire literally went like this, and then it went in a different direction. It like it came close up to him, and then it just like went the opposite way. I don't know. It's just strange like that. Mother Earth is like that. And then he says, for me, it is not negative. It's not negative to know that there will be big changes. It's not negative. It's evolution. When you look at it as an evolution, you know it's time. Nothing stays the same. You should learn to plant something. This is the first connection. You should look at all things as spirit. Realize that we are family, community. It never ends. Everything is life, and there is no end to life. So as we're going through these changes and we're witnessing it and we're prepared for it, we have to have our connection to the plants, to eating, to life. Collect your seeds, understand how to plant things, get with your neighbors, go join a class, learn how to do these things, because this is our first connection, and it's a spiritual connection when you learn how to plant. I've seen that too with the tornado that zigzagged and seemed to hit several houses of a family who stayed near each other but didn't hit others' houses that were theirs. I know, isn't it crazy, CP? Because you see these things happening and you see how Mother Nature, like she's fierce. Mother Nature is fierce. We don't want to mess with her. And we've been messing with her. See, the thing I learned in ceremony a long time ago is that she showed me how much she gives. She's so loving. She's so kind. She so loves her children, every children, even the problem children. She loves everybody. But when she's had enough, she's had enough. And we're starting to see that she's having enough. It's like, okay, I've warned you. Okay, I've warned you. Okay, I've warned you. Okay, I've really warned you. And it's just she keeps doing it until we get it. How many times do we have to be hit up over the head to get it? And it really is now. We're in the 7th generation. We're in the time where it's time to get it, because we need to get it. Okay. And that's why the prophecies also say that there are no mistakes at this time. Everybody who's born on this planet at this time is not a mistake. Is not a mistake time. You're here because of the change. And like I talked about in previous lives, everybody who's on the planet right now is here because this is the time of transition. And on a soul level, you have been through times of transition. You know what a transition looks like. You've been here. You've operated through this time. You have a voice in this place. You understand it. It's almost like Mother Nature saying, I've been trying to get your attention, but been ignored, and now making the presence known where you have to see. Pretty amazing on a spiritual level. Yeah, this is the time where most souls want to come in. I know it's crazy, but this is golden time. This is the time where your soul evolves. It's an evolution time. And especially if you have children, This is the time to teach your children the original ways, to learn how to plant, to learn the connections to the basic elements of earth, fire, water, air, to respect the spiritual world. Because so many of my clients, they always tell me, my kids are just turning on. Those are the ones really turning on. They're so wise. They're saying things that I've blow my mind, right? The kids are really starting to awaken because they understand the times they're born into. Reminded me of the extended warranty joke. Hello, this is Mother Earth. I've called you to remind you on your expiring warranty. I haven't seen that one yet. That's exactly what it is. She's like, excuse me, your warranty is expiring and you need to return to your original instructions if you want to survive. You need to return to the original ways that you were supposed to be as a human being. And the thing too is that what the elder said is that when we return to this original way of life, back to, working with the earth, working in harmony, community, understanding spirit, and going back to ceremony and all that stuff, we will be so happy. We will be so happy because we don't have all this other garbage in our lives. It really has not been that long ago when we did have a good connection with Mother Earth. Yeah. And I feel like, there's pockets all over the world that have really good connections and they're kind of holding it for us. Like there's certain tribes and stuff doing rituals and ceremonies that are holding Mother Earth. Like the Hopis, they have these beautiful ceremonies they do every summer that are for Earth, that are for humanity. And they are the last ones really holding that space. The disregard has been too great and devastating. Yeah, it has been. You like that joke, Sweet Pea? Yeah, our warranty is expiring, and Mother Earth is like, okay, I'm done. But that's why the prophecy is around women, too, around women who are the womb bearers, who are the closest to the earth, returning to the sacred ways, returning to the divine ways, returning to their real femininity. Because in this system, women are not, they're repressing their femininity. In the ancient times, even still in tribal societies, women were the clan mothers. They were the ones who made all the decisions for the whole tribe and were highly respected and revered and had a voice because they were the most connected to the spirit world. See, ancient societies always knew that women were the ones connected the deepest to the spirit world because they were the womb bearers. They're the ones who bring life into this world and they bleed every month. And that is a connection to not only the moon cycles, but to the forces of nature. And we have to remember that in the spirit world, it's only spiritual law. There's none of that other stuff. There's no ego involved. It's only law. And what we do comes back. That's what the law of karma and cause and effect is that what we do to the earth is going to come back. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon, right? And we're living in the time where we're going to see these great transitions that will happen. And so it's not to be feared, like Red Crow says, but it's to be prepared. I sort of talked about that today. Oh, good, Kelly. More people need to talk about this stuff. And it's not just, it has nothing to do with race or class or any of that stuff because we all live on Mother Earth. It just has to do with going back to nature and to the original ways and to what is right and how can we make amends to Mother Earth and to the people holding the original ways. Because part of the prophecy is that people will come back to the indigenous people, but unfortunately our elders are not there. A lot of them have passed. A lot of them don't know the ways anymore. Many of them have been traumatized and wounded and don't want to talk about this stuff. And so we have a cultural problem too. But there's going to be so many people who want this information, who are ready for the information and need the information coming back to the indigenous people. And there's a healing happening right now in the communities. And when that healing, is to the point where people are ready, we join forces. That's the coming of the medicine wheel, right? That we all come back together in that sacred hoop, in that sacred space, because everybody needs to come back to the earth. And it's going to be a great experiment. Because nobody knows how to do it. We've never done it before. So we're kind of living history, and we're making it up as we go, but how we go about it is in spiritual ways. It's that the earth is awakening us, and as she awakens us, we do our part. Everybody has a specific part in this whole awakening, and it's not like kumbaya. It's kind of messy, it's sloppy. There's a lot of feelings and emotions. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of trauma. There's just all these things. But we have to go through it. We have to understand it from the individual level, and then also the society level, psychological and sociological. They're both part of this whole thing, because you can't make a grand change in the world just by like psychology. You can't just change yourself and expect the whole world to change. I know some philosophies say that, like, oh, I change and the whole world changed, right? But a lot of that is kind of spiritual bypassing. Really and truly, you change yourself, but then once you change yourself, you go out and you change your community. Because the system of healing is self-healing, healing your family, then healing your community, and then healing the world. But people think, oh, I'm going to not heal myself. Oh, forget my family. I don't know about my community, but I'll go try and be a world healer. And then it won't work out because you skipped all those foundational levels. You have to start at the individual level, move to the family level, move to the community level, and then the world. It doesn't work that way otherwise. I talk about nature a lot, and today I was talking about connecting to feminine energy. Oh, good, you were in the vibe and all that other stuff. You're in a group working on healing. That's good. More groups have to emerge talking about healing, and doing it in a group ceremony is really good. Seems like a lot to do in one lifetime. Yeah, sometimes we won't make it in one lifetime, but we can try. That's the thing too. Like, a lot of you may be like Reiki healers. I know a lot of people are Reiki healers. And the thing about Reiki in the original ways was that you would start in Reiki 1. First, you would have to be invited. Like, somebody would have to recognize that you have Reiki healing gifts. And then you would be invited into like a sacred society. It was like only 500 Reiki masters at a time. And you would be invited in. And then you could spend your whole life on Reiki 1. Like, you would never advance any farther than Reiki 1, because that's how deep of a system it is. And then you would die and then be reborn. And then your destiny would lead you to be Reiki 2. And then you could spend a whole lifetime on Reiki 2. And then you would die and then be reborn. And then maybe your destiny would lead you to be Reiki Master, which would be like Reiki 3. And so it could take you potentially 3 lifetimes to get to mastery. And that's how every ancient system is. It's like, if you're a spiritual person in this lifetime, it means that you've been working on spiritual stuff in other lifetimes. And depending on your spiritual power, your gifts, and your connection, it's probably been many lifetimes. Like, the Buddha took 3 aeons of lifetimes to enlighten. You just think about that. 3 aeons. he was born, reborn, born. Like he went through all that to become the Buddha. And when he died, he had something like 80,000 teachings that he left on this earth around spirit and spiritual ways and how to be enlightened. Like he left a whole entire system of enlightenment for others to follow. But it took him 3 aeons. And when we're talking about 3 aeons, we're talking about perfect body, perfect speech, and perfect mind. Because they said, like, whichever way you look at the Buddha, like, go, if you have a Buddha statue, just go look at it. Whatever way you look at it, it evokes peace. That's what the Buddha does. That's why they make those huge Buddha statues in the East, is because they want you to look at Buddha and feel peace. And then through looking at Buddha, you are making a seed of enlightenment. That's the whole teaching of Buddhism, is that just looking at the Buddha is bringing you peace. And I know a lot of people put Buddhas in their yard and stuff for that exact reason, because they want to evoke the feeling of peace. And that's what his teachings are, is the peace path. It's the path of enlightenment, and it's this whole roadmap, right? And it's not, I know there's a religious part to it, but there's also just a spiritual and philosophical way that you can live through those teachings. So it's a philosophy, it's a religion, and it's a spiritual path all together. And that's how ancient systems are, is that ancient systems are roadmaps for your inner enlightenment, for your inner ways. They provide you with values and systems and spirituality that you can follow to get to wherever you want to go. Hi Stephanie. Hi, that is precisely why I have one in my home. I love that I walked into you speaking about this. Why you have one in your house is to evoke peace, right? And that's what the Buddha is. And that's why when you study how to, draw Buddha and make Buddha and all that stuff and all the different deities, you spend years and years and years to learn the symmetry. The symmetry is the hardest part of drawing a Buddha, because it has to be perfectly symmetrical. That's how Buddha was. He was perfectly symmetrical. And there are pages upon pages and pages in the sutras talking about his dimensions. Like they would talk about all of Buddha's dimensions, his head, his nose, his this, his that. He's perfectly symmetrical. And that's the thing, is he was perfectly symmetrical, which is what we call beauty. He was very beautiful. This woman I know channeled Buddha, and he told her enlightenment is having a quiet mind. Yeah. Enlightenment is having a quiet mind, and it's being fully in your light. And so Buddha was so full in his light that he awakened probably around 40, I think. He was like middle age. And then he spent like the next 40 years every day in and out teaching. So he spent all these years, preparing for his enlightenment. And then when he was fully in his light, he spent the next 40 or so years preaching, teaching, going door to door. You know how Buddhist monks to this day, they go door to door for food? That's what Buddha did. And then people followed him. And he had a lot of business people who followed him, a lot of merchants, a lot of kings, a lot of people in politics, because he said that in order to change society, you have to get to the people who make the biggest decisions for society. So he worked with every class, every race, every person teaching, but he lived as a peasant. He went door to door, like you would, even in this time and age, if you lived in like Thailand, you have Buddhist monks who come and they bless you and you give them rice or food or whatever you have. And then, they may give you a teaching, they may give you a reading, they may give you a message, but it's incredibly lucky when you encounter a monk. That's how it is in the East. When you see a monk, it's like, wow, that's a blessing. And so enlightenment is to be in your fullest power, and it's to have perfect speech, perfect body, perfect mind, and to be able to implement change on a grand scale. Because you think about Buddha and Jesus and any of the ascended masters, you're still talking about them. people are still talking about them. People are still sharing their teachings. People are still mystified by them. People can look at a Buddha statue and have, emotions and cry and feel peace and happiness. And some people get that, looking at a cross or Jesus, or, everybody has something different, angels. But when you're working with beings of enlightenment, it's because you're working on your own light within, and they're evoking and helping you to open that space within you so that you can shine. They're like inspiration, they empower you. It's all about how to be your fullest self no matter what is around you. No matter what is around you, no matter who is around you, no matter the circumstances you're in, whether you're poor, rich, this, that, whatever it is. And, Buddha had incredible psychic powers. People talk a lot about his psychic powers in his sutras, that he had the ability to just look at somebody and know their entire past lives. And he would know what they were here for, how far they would go on their path. Like, he would know everything about you. So if you were to meet Buddha, he'd just look at you and be like, like lasers coming out of him. He'd be like, he would know everything about you. He would understand who you are, why you're here, what you're meant to do. And then he could speak straight to you, straight to your heart, straight to your mission, your purpose, your destiny. And it would touch you in a way that, no other person has ever touched you. That's what true enlightenment is. And there are people who are like that. There are people who are like that all over the world, who have evolved themselves to be that kind of big, bright light. And that's the goal for most people, whether they know it or not, is that at some point in time in history, they will enlighten. And some people have enlightened and then they start all over again. They'll go back and do all of it over again, because we on this earth, the reason we come in and out of existence and we get reborn is because we're seeking perfection of the soul. And until we achieve what they call enlightenment, we're not perfect. We have a lot of flaws and things we have to work out with our ego, with our mind, with our situations. And so we just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And it's it could take 3 aeons to get there, but we're going to get there. But at this time in our human history, we are being born into, and we are already here, many souls on the way, to help in this transition. And so there's 2 roads on this path. There's the road of creation, and then there's the road of destruction. And so I think a lot of people right now are really focused on that road of destruction. And if you're in the path of destruction, obviously you have no choice. But if you're not in the path of destruction, then the invitation is to step into the road of creation. What is it in your soul that is ready to create? Like, what are you here to create? And you may look at destruction and say, wow, that whole thing was just destroyed, and there's this need for this new creation. And then you evaluate, well, these are my gifts, these are my services, this is what I've done in the past, this is what I'm good at, and this is where my heart is leading me. And then from there, opportunity comes, and that's what we call the magic, or that's the feminine. So the masculine is the doing, it's the action, it's the the actual thing you have to build. And then the feminine is the creation, it's the opportunity, it's the unseen things that weave into your path to make that thing happen. So, for example, if you're trying to start a business, the first thing people think of when they think of a business is like money. But actually, money is like almost the last thing to come. The first thing to really think about is, what is it you want to do. What kind of business? And when you think about business, you think about the thing you're going to do in and out for hopefully the rest of your life, if not a very long time. And you have to think like, is this going to be something that you want to continuously do for years on end? I think a lot of people just think of fast, quick, easy money, and then they may make the money, but then they'll burn out and then they won't want to do it. Like a product. Yeah, if you have a product idea, but make sure it's a product that you actually want to sell, that you think is needed in the world, that you want to create or is already created, but something that you're going to have the longevity with. Because the thing people always talk about is, oh, do what you're passionate about. The problem with passion is that passion fades. It fades very quickly. You'll get really passionate, you'll get really inspired, and then you'll just, I don't want to do it anymore. No, and you get tired. But if you want to have like a real business, a real service, a real something, you have to think about the thing you're really called to do and that you're going to stand with for the long run. You're going to marry that product or that service. You don't have a product, Kelly? Maybe in the future you will. But a lot of people have products, services, things that will help people, things that people will buy and that they need and that will help them in the long run and that will keep you going, something you believe in. Because once passion fades, the next thing you have to have is patience. Because the passion is not enough to build a business. The passion will come, go, and come and go and come and go. But once you have patience, because you can see the vision, you understand the vision, no matter what, you're married to this vision and you're going to put it out there. That's what it is needed in the long run. And that's what the teachings of the Tonopali say, is that you will have that eagle fly into the fire and then it'll quickly get scorched. And then the next thing has to come in as the jaguar, the ocelot, who has those stripe or those spots. And the spots represent the passion, but the ocelot is ready to just sit and just be and continue to do the day in, day out discipline stuff that is needed for success. And that's the part that is the hardest part of any venture, any business, school, whatever you're doing for the long run. Because when you have to do something day in, day out, and you don't have any passion and you're tired, it's got to be something deeper that pulls you to it, that like will get you to that success. The eagle and panther, yes. I remember and told that story in a group. Yeah, the jaguar. Yeah, the ocelot. It'll come out and then it's the day in, day out, every day. Let me get through this drudgery until I get to success. And those are the success stories. Those are people who will succeed, is when you have both those two elements of passion that turns to patience, because we need both of those, the yin and the yang. And as we're going through this, we need community. I tell them all about your meditation Monday, but only I come. Oh, well, keep sharing it, keep going. When they're ready, they'll come. That's the thing. People always tell me, oh, I share your stuff, and they don't come. That's okay. Like I said, I always swim deeper in the water. So when people are ready to come, it means that they're ready to go beyond shallow and into a little deeper. Because a lot of the stuff people talk about with healing is fluffy. It's egoic. It's not true. That's the unfortunate part. It's because it's copied and pasted. It's not studied. It's not observed. It's not debated. One of the things I always love about Buddhism is that it's debated. In order to get your doctorate, which is the Geshe in Tibetan Buddhism, in order to get your doctorate, you have had to have studied at least 17 years in the monastery, and then you have had to have gone through probably thousands of debates, debating what you actually believe in. Because If you don't understand the opposite of it, you won't understand what you actually believe in. So you have to believe in both. You have to see both sides and see, is this teaching's true? Is it what I believe? Is it really, debatable? Can I hold a debate with it? Can I stand in it? Is it fluffy crap? Sorry. Is it, just something I made up? Or is it real? And spirit is always material. There's a spiritual and then there's a material. You can't have one without the other. This is not a world like that where you just spiritual. No, it has to have a material component to it. It has to be debatable. It has to be something seen. It has to be something unrefutable. And until it's unrefutable, it's not going to pass the longevity test. Teachings that last for thousands of years are irrefutable. You can't deny them. They stand through all the tests of time, and they keep going. They keep going. Also, her newsletter is available. Yeah. Well, thanks, Nicole. Yeah, if you want the newsletter, it comes out every new moon and full moon. And I talk about the energies and different things. Yeah. So that's the thing about spirituality, is that true spirituality, it stands the test of time. It's been weathered. And, indigenous spirituality has stood the test of time and time again. Even to this day, you can go to an original ceremony and be healed. It just as our ancestors and thousands of years ago ancestors, same ceremonies, same healing. And that's the beauty of the ceremonies, is that you can go to a sweat lodge to this day and get healing, just as they were doing sweat lodges thousands of years ago. That's withstanding the tests of time. And it's because our ancestors were so connected to the cosmos, to the earth, to the galaxies, to their selves, that they could hear the wind. Some of us can still hear the wind, but we have to return to hearing the wind. I see some bots coming in, but I see amazing new people. Yeah, don't pay attention to the bots. One day, I don't know when, hopefully in the very far distant future, we'll be like, remember those times when we were just beginning to see the bots? Remember those times when we thought this was a joke? No, the bots are going to have consciousness. But it's going to be a crazy time. And that's why we're living through this time of transition and change. Because those of you who are on this live and who will watch this live in the future, you are part of a bridge. A lot of you remember when you were children and you went outside. Children nowadays don't go outside. They're on their devices a lot. I mean, if you have children, be sure to make them go outside. Get that connection, because there's a whole generation that probably won't even know what it is to go outside. And especially in the coming times. One of my mentors, Grandmother Florida Mayo, she said that this was back in the 70s, I believe. She went to a kind of like a botanical gardens or something like that, but they had like these domes where they had plants and stuff like that. And she said that when she walked in, she heard grandmother tell her, this is what the future is going to look like. People won't go outside. They will go to these like dome things and, like botanical gardens and think that's outside. And she just cried because she couldn't imagine the thought of people not going outside and being connected to the earth, like that we would have to connect to earth in these domes. Something to think about. All I did as a kid was go outside. I know, me too. Remember the mud pies and, your parents would be like, "Just come back before dark." And then you'd hear like your parents calling, or different neighbor kids. And that's how I grew up. It's like, "Oh, come inside, dinner," or whatever. And, "Oh, no, I don't want to go inside." Yeah, we're that generation, we had generations before this that actually went outside. We didn't have phones, we didn't have computers, we didn't have any of that stuff. We had outside. You need your nature, sweet pea. Me too. Lost a shoe in the creek, came home a mud monster. Yeah, see, you were part of Mother Nature. But those are the days. The those are like, what we'll look back at and be like, "Oh yeah, remember we used to go outside?" Which is kind of sad, I thought. Then that's what she said. Grandmother Florida Miles said that's why she built a property in New Mexico for people to go outside, like to do ceremony, to do growing stuff and seeds. Actually, her thing is she's a seed collector. She has people send her indigenous seeds from all over the world, and she has a special property where she stores our seeds, so for the future generations. Hello, new here. I was talking to a kid about seeing the Milky Way, and she didn't understand. Had never been out of the city to see the night sky. Oh, hi, tallish tree. I like your name. I know, ain't that sad? And it is crazy because until I moved to Sedona, I didn't really know what the Milky Way was either. That's really sad. About 10 years ago. And then I looked up and I was like, whoa, what the heck? And I remember thinking like, wow, it's amazing when you see a pure dark sky. Because I remember having that experience when I went to the Philippines and we stayed on this remote island, and you could look up at the stars and they felt like you could touch them. They were so huge and so magnanimous and so beautiful. And I was like, wow, I feel like I could touch that star. And then, I lived in cities all over and whatever. And then when I was in Sedona, I remember like seeing the Milky Way and being like, wow, look at that. And then you see all the constellations and all that. And then I would go down to the reservation, and the stars are just amazing on the reservation. And it's just like, wow, how many people don't see that? And one time I had a ceremony. I had like a group of 25 Japanese people come to my house, and we were doing a fire ceremony, and it was a cacao ceremony, I believe, with fire. And I remember I turned everything off. I turned all the lights off, and you had like 25 of these Japanese adults who had never seen stars. Like they were just, oh! It was so funny. It was like, oh, they're all staring up at the stars, amazed, and they just couldn't stop like talking about the stars and how amazing they were, and wow. And this is a group of very wealthy Japanese people. And it was in that moment I was like, man, you can have all the money in the world, but when you don't understand like nature and the stars, and you've never seen something so amazing like that, it's like, what's the point? You can have all this money and never see the stars. This is crazy. My daughter is so pale. She don't like to be outside. It's time to get her outside, right? Hi, Lady J. How are you? Yeah, I know. So many kids don't want to go outside. In Korea, they're like that too. They wear umbrellas and gloves when they go outside in the summertime. They want to be pale. It's so hard these days. Sickness makes my family fear nature, like getting bit by a tick. I know. Then there's also these people who come to Sedona from all over, and they're from the city, and they're wearing their high heels on these rocky paths and whatever. And And then they see a bug and they freak out. Oh God, there's a bug. And that's the first thing you learn in nature and in the desert, especially, is there's bugs. Like some of those bugs are bigger than your head, and they're not trying to do anything but survive. And they are survivors because they live out in the desert. Anything that lives in the desert has to be a survivor. And I think part of it is just, letting our kids know that it's okay to get dirty. It's okay to get, see a bug. It's okay to see the stars. They need to see those things. That's a visual, bugs and high heel. Yeah, and I always can know. I'm always like, oh, I bet you they're from the city. Yep. Or, unfortunately, during the pandemic, they're miles and miles away from it. And they're still wearing a mask on a 100-degree day. I'm like, wow. I don't know where you're from, but it's okay. It's okay when you're miles and miles away. A moth just landed on my bed. A moth, that's like a spiritual thing. Going camping this summer, I noticed the bugs in a different way. They were just so curious. Yeah. Like the little bugs had such big personalities. They're just curious. They're just trying to live, you know what I mean? Bugs are just trying to live. They're not trying to bother anybody. They're just living. And we're just trying to live. Everybody's trying to live. Anyways, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks for joining me today on Meditation Monday. I'm going to be coming up with a new schedule and doing different things, but for now, I'm just here on Mondays. So thanks for joining in, and I look forward to connecting again. Many blessings.